that have proposed in this alley. But at night, I would tell you of a duel between a doctor and a lawyer fighting over an actress. Long story short, doctor loses, lawyer skips town, actress never becomes a star. Tragic, but true. We've had as many as 13 different duels, registered duels in this alley, and many non-registered duels. So if for whatever reason your anger management class is not working for you, there is still one more option while you're on vacation. But remember, you have to use flintlocks and you have to hit what you're shooting at. If you discharge a firearm in the city limits of Charleston without having a definite target, it is a $250 fine. So make sure whatever you aim at, you hit, and then that's perfectly legit. All right, so remember that. All right, Gibbs. All right. Very close quarter. All right, we're pulling in a little bit, guys. Yep. Up.
Good deal.
Hey. Up. Up. Hey. Whoa. Hang on. All right, this is Chalmers Street. This is the longest cobblestone city, I can't talk, my brain is fried today. Longest cobblestone street in the city, that's what I was trying to say. Now these are all English ballast stones that have all come from the ports of England. When the ships would leave the old world to come to the new world, they would be half full of people and half full of rocks. They would get to this side of the world, they wouldn't need the people or the rocks, and they would dump them out along the water's edge, and we would literally start using them. This would be the last building built by the British prior to the Revolutionary War. When the Declaration of Independence is said for the first time in South Carolina, it will be read on those steps. When the Constitution is ratified and presented to the public, it will be done on those steps. When President General George Washington himself comes to town, they will have as many as 4 balls or dances in his honor. He will dance on the 2nd floor of that building in 1791. Below that is a dungeon. Some of the most famous scoundrels to ever stay in the dungeon, one of them was a pirate by the name of Steed Bonnet or Stead Bonnet. The other one was a patriot by the name of Christopher Gadsden. He was a member and the leader of a local group called the Sons of Liberty. He's the man who will make the yellow flag with the snake and says, "Do not tread on me." Enough of that? Hey guys, how y'all doing? Good. Oh yeah. All right, we would very much be inside of the old city. As you can see, the water is still not very far away. So there would have been a wall that would have surrounded this part of old Charlestown, and this would have been the early business district of the town. In this area you would have found tinkers, weavers, potters, coopers, blacksmiths, soap makers, rope makers. All the early different colonial crafts would be represented somewhere in this 10-block area around the city. Good boy, good. G. Step it up. Tight G. Boy, I know you got it. 1740. Well before the Revolutionary War by almost 50 years. Remember the little story about the elves and the shoemaker? Remember he lived above his shop and the elves would come and make shoes every night. You can imagine that may have gone on down here too. By now, you probably have thought to yourself, what does a house cost in Charleston, right? I love it when people say, well, what do these houses cost? Remember the old adage, if you have to ask, you can't afford it, all right, as a general rule. But a lot of these would be second homes or third homes to some of the people that live in them now. Look back and you can see that they have a nice wide open area. A lot of people feel sad for them because they have no front yard. Do not feel sad for anybody who lives on East Battery, south of Broad in Charleston, South Carolina. They're doing just fine without your help. Don't you worry. All right? Yeah. This is the remnant of what would have been the old Charleston city wall. We would be inside the wall. Over there it would be marshland back in the early days. This is the first great dividing line, which would be the end of the wall. We get down here, this is the next dividing line. We will literally jump 100 years in history. Everything I have shown you so far is late 16, early 1700s. Once we cross that line, everything from there on will be 1800. How we doing today? Hey ladies, remember what I told you about the every other brick, every other row. Again, a very old building. This is Vanderhorst Wharf. This would have been a big warehouse where they would have held goods that would have come in by ship, waiting to be reloaded and sent off in another ship. All right, we have just crossed the Great Divide. We have just jumped into the 1800s. These are called the grand old ladies of the Battery. These are the most highly sought after, most ostentatious, and most expensive homes in the city of Charleston. Remember the adage, if you have to ask, right? Well, I'll tell you, it's not a million, but multiple millions. How many millions are you willing to spend? Over here, this is the Charleston Yacht Club. Very prestigious group of people. It costs $50,000 for your initial interview and membership, $20,000 a year maintenance fee for your application, and right now they have a 100-year waiting list. So you might want to go ahead and get that application in early. Look at this little alley. This is called Stoll's Alley. This is a long-standing Charleston tradition that the man walk down the alley hand in hand. If they can make it all the way to the end of the alley without grumbling or fighting, then chances are it may be a good relationship. But it gets really wide at the end, so you have to cut and run. You got plenty of room to say, well, it was very nice. Have a great day. All right, and now the beautiful Charleston Harbor unfolding there before you. This is how we get the nickname, the Jewel of the Southern Ports. Our nearest neighbor to the south is Savannah. It's 9 miles up the Savannah River from the ocean to the city. Nearest neighbor to the north, Wilmington, 19 miles up the Cape Fear River from Southport all the way up to the city of Wilmington. Charleston, right there is the ocean on the other side. You see the big merchant ships. We've got one to the far left coming in, a big cargo ship. You see another one coming in behind him. Every single person that came here in the early days would have to come by boat. All of them will cross what we call the Charleston Bar, which is way out there on the other side of the fort. That fort is Fort Sumter, the Civil War fort, where the Civil War all began in 1861. Now, the Confederates think that if they strike first blood, that the war will be over in 6 months. Little did they know how that was going to work out for them in the end. But Fort Sumter is way out there. The Union or the federal troops felt that if they moved out there at the beginning of the war, that they would be out of harm's way. Little did they know that there were 9 Confederate batteries surrounding Fort Sumter. And by them moving out there, they literally put themselves dead center in the middle of the crosshairs of all the people who didn't like them. On April 12th, 1861 at 4 a.m. in the morning, the Confederates will unleash what they call hellfire and brimstone on the fort. Remember the old Johnny Cash song, The Ring of Fire? He didn't invent the name. The Ring of Fire was the Charleston artillery batteries that were all the way around Fort Sumter. They will bombard the fort all night long, they will reduce a beautiful, brand new 3-story fort to 1-story pile of burning rubble. And by morning, that Civil War will have begun. Now, you probably read the book, right? The Yankees come back. When they do, they come back in 1863. And they will bring with them a secret artillery weapon that they have been working on, a brand new cannon called the Swamp Angel, which you have got to admit is a totally cool name for a cannon. They will fire a round from all the way out there where that ship is to the right. That is Fort Johnson. They will fire a round that goes over the Charleston Harbor, over Fort Sumter, over the buildings, over the treetops, and will literally land in that parking lot where you got on this carriage. So imagine a cannonball coming from all the way out there and landing in the middle. Even us, even the Confederates said, wow. And then we said a bunch of stuff that could not be recorded in the history book. And the Yankees will continuously bombard us till the end of the war, 587 days, until the city of Charleston will fall to its knees and the Civil War will be done and the Old South is no more. So let's talk about rich people houses, something entertaining. All right? The house, all of the add-ons and details. Look at the beautiful Corinthian columns. A lot of people think that these are made of stone. They couldn't be because they would have to come by ship. They were literally built here on site. It will take years to build these because they're made with a center beam up the middle, brick all the way around, stucco, plaster, wood, carving, scraping, and painting as you're building these columns. It takes so long because there's different drying time in between each one of the layers as they're added on. Look at the glass. Look around the front doorway. Like I said, this is all inlaid glass. Everybody thinks this is all one piece of glass. Each piece, even the teeniest, tiniest ones, are cut and hand placed into position. Look at things like the white and gray inlaid Italian marble portico, or piazza, as we Southerners call it. And then the white marble steps. Just so you know, I have been told that the whole second floor is all one little girl's playroom. That not only she, but her friends can ride their bicycles in her bedroom on rainy days. Think about that and we'll get back to you on it. There's a word, but you can't say it out loud. All right, step up. Come along. Up. All right, and then one last look into the beautiful park. You see where the Ashley River has been flowing downbound along the western side to meet the Cooper. These are beautiful Carolina live oaks. Now, no matter where you live, as long as you live in North America, there are oak trees. There's white oaks, red oaks, pin oaks, jack oaks, acorn oaks. They're all different. But the live oak is very unique because unlike its other cousins, it does not lose its leaves in the fall. It keeps its leaves year-round. So these trees will be just as green in January as they are in June, July, and August. We're giving them the name live. And also you see how they twist and curve and meander to seek out the light. You can take two acorns from the same Mother Earth, plant them side by side, and they would never come out exactly the same.
What's this place right here?
We're getting to that. Thanks for asking. This is the most photographed and well-loved house in town. This is number 2 Meeting Street. Step it up. Whoop. Stand. This today is a bed and breakfast, but originally it was one person's house. This story is for the ladies. Ready, ladies? Gentlemen, try not to throw up. 1886, the young girl who is going to receive this house will receive it as a wedding gift. She will wake up on the morning of her wedding to find beside her head a beautiful velvet hand-embroidered pillow. On the pillow will be a small cloth bag tied with a string and a handwritten note. And the note will simply say, "Build the house of your dreams. Love, Dad." Ready, girls? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. The guys are like, bleh. All right? But here's the story. She will open up that cloth bag. Inside that cloth bag will be $75,000 in gold.
When was this? What year was this?
15 years after the Civil War, 1886. $75,000 in gold was like $75 trillion. It was so much money. So she will build the house of her dreams, and she'll have money left over. She'll build a beautiful gazebo down at the end of the road to honor her parents. This is Charleston's #1 outdoor wedding venue. We have more outdoor weddings than we do church weddings here in Charleston. Most of them are right out here in this big park. All right, hang on to that story. I'm going to finish it here in a minute. But I don't want you to miss this house. This is a home that is in what we call early Adamask or Georgian style architecture. Make sure you notice the cupola or the big widow's watch up on the top. Remember that this is what they call a meeting staircase. In the olden days, a man would go up the left side, lady goes up the right side. That way the gentleman cannot see the lady's ankles while they were climbing. That means it was done in a mold. Wrought iron is all done by hand by a blacksmith.
Are these all paintings?
These are all mostly individual private homes. This one is a little of both though. Hang on a second, let me get up here and you can see. Whoa. Stand. All right, keep me on time. What time is it? Just a minute. Oh, I'm good. All right, make sure you notice the beautiful glass chandelier and the doorways. This is all hand-cut Tiffany glass, supervised and installed by Mr. Tiffany himself of Tiffany Incorporated, New York, New York. All right, remember the last story where I said, build the house of your dreams, love Dad? Remember that part? This is Dad's house. All right, starting to see a general trend here. This is the brother's house across the street. Now all of a sudden the guys are looking around going, whoa, maybe Daddy was rich. Daddy was totally loaded rich, but here's how he's going to make his money in 5 years. He is in the import-export business under the cloak of darkness during wartime, better known as a blockade runner or a privateer. Remember I told you about the Yankees coming back and bombarding the city for 587 days? Yep. Because of people like Captain George Walton Williams, it took 587 days because the blockade runners are still sneaking through the Union blockade. Now, he is a very dastardly sailor, to say the least, but he is also a very, very good businessman. And he realizes halfway through the war that somebody's going to lose, and that all of this money was not going to be any good. No paper money would be valuable. And so he will only take gold and silver for his payment as a blockade runner. So at the end of the war, he has amassed such a huge fortune that he is a multi-mega millionaire. Except for one weird little problem. We lost the war. And so now he has to hide all that gold because we're going through a time that we Southerners don't like to say out loud called Reconstruction. So he will hide it away and make sure that nobody finds it. His wife will unfortunately pass away years after the Civil War of scarlet fever. He will raise his 2 children basically from birth to marrying age, and they will live in a little house over on Smith Street in what most people would consider the bad side of town, knowing that he literally has millions of dollars buried under the floorboards of his house. When the Yankees finally leave and they go back up north, he comes out and he appears on his daughter's wedding day in a brand new suit with a brand new haircut and presents his daughter with $75,000 in gold. You can imagine the jaws that drop. The reason he builds those 3 big, beautiful, ostentatious houses that take 10 years to complete is because he wanted to make sure that the Yankees knew one thing on Confederate Memorial Day, that the South shall rise again. I only get to say that one time on the trip, but I love that story because he put it to him for a long time. He hid out and nobody knew it. Look at all the roots on that tree. This tree is estimated by the urban forester, who is the guy who keeps up with all the trees around here, to be right at 300 years old. So you got to turn to the left. As long as the door is on the street and the open side faces to the south, you can kind of flip-flop the pattern either way to make it work. Now, the reason we do this is for the heat. The wind, if you think of Charleston like Florida, the wind comes from the eastern side to the Gulf side. It comes across the peninsula and will blow in between the buildings to keep the houses cool. We turn them sideways. You open the lower windows, which lets cool air in. Open attic windows, lets hot air out, cycling the air and the wind through the house to keep it cool in the summer months. As long as the open side faces to the south, then that way you catch all the fresh daylight all the way through. And then the houses have what they call northern manners, which means your neighbor who is closest to you has no windows on the northern side so that they can accidentally look down on the porch next door. But you know the real reason why all the houses face to the south and not to the north, right? It's because no real Charlestonian would ever face their house towards the north. All right, we know that line. All right, this is Nathaniel Russell House, built 1808. National Registry of Historic Places. It is a museum home, open every day, owned by the Historic Charleston Foundation. Back that way was First Baptist Church, 1682. This one is First Scots Presbyterian, 1731. All right, we're going to cut the corner here. This is what I love Route 1, because they're going to come down Track Street. Yeah, good boy. You got it. All right, this is Track Street. This is the only street that you can see the width of the Charleston Peninsula. All the way down there is the Ashley River. You saw it earlier, so you know that there's a big river that goes that way. Ahead of us is Cooper. We also saw that earlier. But this is the only street that you can look both ways and see a river on either end of the street. It is exactly 1.5 miles long. So I love these people who come to town who don't walk a lot and go, oh my God, this town is so huge. I must have walked 100 miles today. I'm going, really? In Charleston? That is 1.5 miles. So you tell me you walked 100 miles. Let's rethink that before you start spouting off 100 miles, all right? In Charleston, you do better to say blocks instead of miles. You'll impress more people. All right, let's go in and take a 5. We're doing good. Caught up a little bit of time, so I get a stop. Washington slept here plaque. You see the triangular shaped plaque? And then again, National Registry of Historic Places. I work a lot with school groups, and I love it when these kids go, you mean Washington slept here? I was like, yeah, he not only slept here, he ate here, he used the outhouse in the back, he washed his dirty socks in a bucket sitting on the back porch. Yeah, he was like a real guy. They're like, wow, that's so cool. And I was like, yeah, that's how you make the $1 bill. Yeah. You gotta be real. All right, and then some more beautiful Charleston singles. These are all, again, pre-revolutionary. You can tell by the configuration of the bricks. All right? The more bricks you see like that, the older the houses are. Good job. Now these on the other side, these are what we call post-Reconstruction era Victorian houses. All right, for my guys that might do a little carpentry work, in 1886, they're going to invent a new tool called the bandsaw. When they can start reproducing the same kind of woodwork like that on the scroll work, or doing the railings over and over and over, getting them roughed out, they eventually will change the way they build houses. They'll stop building them out of brick and they'll start building them out of wood because there's more wood, and everybody likes the design of the beautiful wooden white railing porches. Later on, they'll get drill presses and power lathes and all those kinds of things. And that will basically streamline woodworking to the point that you can make a house look the same over and over. And that will start the building boom again of Charleston. All right, we are back to Broad Street.